All right, thanks for coming everybody. Again, my name is Niran Babalola. I'm the founder of Panvala, and this talk is about collective action for community ownership. So what you're gonna learn in this talk is how you and I together are gonna participate in collective action that accomplishes a couple of different things. Our collective action is gonna organize people to make themselves impossible for middlemen to extract value from. Our collective action is gonna put community life at the center of our society. And our collective action is going to deliver Web3's benefits to working class people who don't typically own many assets today. That's what we're going to do together. Before I dive into the details, a little bit of backstory. A lot of you already know about Panvala, but just a brief overview of what Panvala is. We're a network of 77 communities who work together to drive more resources to community life and build tighter social bonds across communities. Each quarter, there's an endowment that we share. Our endowment releases assets that the communities in our network share, and we do that every quarter. That endowment is our token supply, and the resources that go to those communities are inflation from that token supply. So what you don't know yet is how we close that loop. We can't just inflate the token forever and give it out to people and have that be worth anything. So really the question is, how do we drive value back into an endowment that communities share? And that's what our collective action is going to accomplish. So for me, Web3 has always been about community ownership, and that's really a radical thing to say. I think that's more radical than what people widely recognize as radical, decentralization. Everyone sees how that's radical. I think community ownership is more radical because it's about who benefits. You can build decentralized systems where the people who are benefiting are effectively passive owners, people who are getting value from the people who are using the decentralized system. That's still possible. But if your goal, if your North Star is community ownership, that means you care about who benefits. The people at the end of the day benefiting are the people using the system, participating in the system, et cetera. So I'm glad to be in a place like Shelling Point where so many people see community ownership as that North Star, as what we're heading for. So far in Web3, there's really been two approaches for community ownership. The first approach is what I call the community first approach, where it's basically starting something new that the community owns up front. The people who build it own it, the people who use it own it, and whatever's built has no middleman owning the system. It's just the people participating who own the system. It's a very common approach. Many DeFi protocols, many different projects in Web3 use this approach. The second approach is the exit to community approach, which has really been popularized by Nathan Snyder, who's speaking on the other stage right now. But if you're familiar with Gitcoin's history, that's really what Gitcoin did. They built a system in really a traditional way with a traditional team that was like a company, built a product that lots of people used, and then decentralized ownership. They gave their community ownership over what they built. They exited to community. These are the two approaches that most teams are using right now. And what I want to introduce is a third approach for us to think about. That third approach is collective action by communities. The reason that I think this approach is so important is because if community ownership means we have to rebuild literally everything that's operated by some sort of middleman extracting value from us, it's going to take a long time to actually achieve community ownership. There's a lot of work that has to be done to rebuild every single thing. But through collective action, we can in one fell swoop organize to divert value, divert control from middlemen in our economy to us and our communities. So that's what our collective action is all about. Our collective action will shift value from middlemen to our communities. So why use collective action as the strategy? Why do I think that it's the best of the three options to achieve that goal of community ownership? Well, first of all, collective action works. It's very effective. The model that I use for community ownership is really the labor movement, and the labor movement got a lot done. If you are a fan of the 8-hour workday and not spending all your waking hours working for your boss, collective action got that for you. If you like the weekend, spending Saturdays and Sundays with the people you care about rather than working some more, collective action got you that. And if you're a fan of retirement benefits, the idea that when you're older and less able to work, that your needs will still be provided for, collective action got you that. Collective action works. It can improve life for so many people at the same time. That's why I think it's an effective strategy. Secondly, with collective action, ownership isn't required. With a lot of the things that people are building in Web3, the idea is that ownership is what determines who benefits, but we're going to more widely distribute the ownership between the participants of the system. It's a good approach, but if you think about the people who are working in the Amazon warehouses where all of our stuff comes from, in our current society, they don't own many assets. And I don't see a viable path that's actually going to distribute ownership so far that literally everybody owns enough of everything that's going on to be able to benefit from it. I just don't think approaches with ownership as the core factor can get us to where we're going if we're talking about community ownership. But with collective action, we already know that it can benefit everyone without needing to own everything. We've seen the labor movement. We've seen how collective action can work. It can benefit everyone. And lastly, collective action unites people across communities. I don't have enough time to get into this one in particular, but if you think about the labor movement, there were very real divides racially that had to be bridged to get workers to unite and work together. A collective action brings people together because they need to get stuff done. So the model of collective action that I'm going to talk about here, I refer to as the collective action passport. And what it really is a playbook for using crypto to coordinate collective action. I think you can use this approach to probably coordinate any collective action you want. But again, the collective action that we're talking about today is collective action that shifts value from middlemen to our communities. So in this collective action passport, the way you earn stamps in your passport is that each time you take an action that helps our collective action, you earn a stamp in your passport. These stamps are specific collective action NFTs that we all agree to display in the collective action passport. So you can, if you're thinking about the details, just think of a white list of NFTs that we're saying are going to show up in this passport. That's what it is at the end of the day. We're deciding what represents a contribution to our collective action and showing it all in one place so we can all see who's contributing to our collective action and coordinate our actions together. So when we talk about the objectives of the collective action that we're trying to do together, there's really two of them. The first one is to collectively increase what we as individuals give to our own communities. More money from our own pockets going to the communities that we care about is part of our collective action. The second objective is to collectively increase what businesses give to our communities. That is actually having more resources for our communities to work with that isn't coming from our own pockets. That's the second objective of our collective action. The reason these two are necessary, the reason they go together so well is because of the guiding principle that the communities that we want to shift value to are the communities that you're already willing to give your own resources, your own money, your own labor to contribute to. Those are the communities that we want businesses to provide value to. The value that used to go to middlemen, that's going to go to the communities that you're willing to give your own resources to. So for that first objective, where we're giving more of our own resources to the communities we care about, the way the stamps get in your passport for that is your own community stamps appearing in the collective action passport. When you make a contribution, you earn a stamp from your community that says you contributed to your community. Luckily, this isn't a brand new thing. There's already communities doing this. If you think about ATX DAO, which is a city DAO in Austin, Texas, where I'm from, when you contribute to ATX DAO, you get an NFT that represents your membership. If you think about Rainbow Rolls, they're a project where when you contribute to pay off somebody's medical debt, you get an NFT in your wallet that represents the contribution that you made. And if you think about Gitcoin's Moonshot bots, again, similarly, when you make a contribution to public goods, you're getting an NFT in your wallet that represents that you made this contribution. These three examples are a little bit different from most of the NFTs you've probably heard about, most of the NFTs that people are talking very much about. First of all, they're typically not speculative. People aren't buying the ATX DAO NFT or the Moonshot bots primarily because they think that it's going to increase in value. They're primarily contributing because of what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to make a contribution to something that they care about. And secondly, these are typically community-centric rather than creator-centric. People aren't earning these NFTs because of necessarily who created them, how beautiful they are, how rare they are. We do want them to look nice, but again, it's about the contribution that you're making to your community, not something that the creator of the NFT in particular did. So that's how these are different from the typical NFTs that you've heard before. But there's two questions that these stamps don't answer when you see them in somebody's passport. If you're looking at somebody's collective action passport, trying to determine how they're contributing to our collective action, you don't know how much somebody contributed if you're just seeing their community-specific stamp. If you're not in that community, you don't know what that stamp means. You don't know what people had to do to get it. So that's one question they don't answer. They also don't answer when you contributed. If we're trying to organize collective action over time to drive more value from middlemen to community life, that's going to take a continuous action over time. But these don't represent continuous action necessarily. So to solve that problem, there's a second kind of stamp that you can earn, which are standardized stamps. These stamps are collectively governed, that is, we set the standards to earn them across the network, but they're minted by each community. Each community is where you go to earn these stamps. There are dates on these stamps, so you know when the contribution was made. So again, if we're trying to encourage continuous action, you know when it happened. And lastly, these are earned at the same time as those community-specific stamps. So say you're going to contribute to ATX DAO or you're going to get a Moonshot bot, you get the standardized stamp at the same time you're getting the community-specific stamp. So you could think of different tiers for contributions: bronze, silver, gold, depending on how much you contributed. Different dates: winter, spring. You want to come back to make sure you get the summer one. That's what these are all about. Another type of standardized stamp is local stamps, particularly to encourage collective action within the city that you live in. Community life thrives when you meet in person, so the communities that you hang out with in person are important to identify in particular. So the communities within a city are the ones that set the criteria for this particular kind of standardized stamp. You want to earn the Austin stamp or the Denver stamp for your particular tier. So that's the first objective of our collective action, increasing what we give from our own pocket. The second objective is getting external value from businesses to our communities, and that's what this next stamp is about. These stamps are sponsored stamps, and they work a little bit differently from the stamps that I described before. You don't earn them by making a contribution of labor or money. You earn them by collecting them from businesses that want your business. So the people who mint these are advertisers, people who spend money to get customers in the door. Instead of spending that money by giving it to Facebook and Google and helping Mark Zuckerberg buy more and more of Hawaii, we want that money to go to the communities that you and I are part of. They purchase these sponsored stamps from these communities. These stamps are earned by customers. That is, you go to a business, you earn a stamp. Each of these stamps has a face value, like a postage stamp, worth 37 cents or something. These stamps also have a face value, and you redeem them with a community of your choice. So for a concrete example, imagine Coinbase is trying to give sponsored stamps to their customers to get them to sign up. To mint one, Coinbase puts $5 into the endowment if they want a $5 stamp. They now have a stamp that they can give to their customers. If Coinbase starts to advertise, hey, if you want funding for your community, come create an account. You get $5 for your community. So you go sign up. Everyone in your community is saying, hey, go sign up, so you can get these stamps that fund your community. You then take it to redeem it with the stamp of your choice. You redeem the stamp with the community of your choice. So once you've earned the stamp, you have it. You choose which community you want. In this example, I'm giving it to ATX DAO. And the $5 that Coinbase put in the endowment can now be withdrawn by the community I chose to fund them. Coinbase had no idea which community I wanted to support. They just knew that I wanted to support a community with my actions in the economy. So they had the ability to fund any community by us organizing ourselves, by us engaging in collective action. That's what enables us to provide the same value they're getting from advertising networks. We can provide that same value for businesses and have that fund our communities instead. So that's how our collective action shifts value from middlemen to our communities. The end goal is to have a community endowment for everyone to be able to draw from. That is, if you think of the total advertising spend in our economy, that's what you and I will be able to draw from to fund community life in the communities that we care about. So how are you going to use the value that we shift from middlemen to communities? Maybe you care about preserving our climate for generations to come. Our collective action is going to give you the resources to do that. Maybe you care about making housing in our cities affordable for all kinds of people. Our collective action is going to give you the resources to do that. Maybe you care about providing high-quality education for the next generation without saddling them with crippling debt. Our collective action can deliver those goods. But maybe you're not a do-gooder at all. Maybe you just care about spending more time with the people you like and having more resources to make that a great experience. That's what community life is all about. We want to help you do that. Our collective action can give you the resources to make that happen. So we want you to build with us. If you're interested in building the Collective Action Passport, we have a kickoff call for this effort 1 week from today, next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's at passport.panvala.com. You can RSVP to be a part of this project. And we want you to join Panvala. Again, we're 77 communities today. We want to be thousands of communities. If you think your community should be a beneficiary of the collective action that we're trying to put together, we want you to join either as your community or as an individual member. Head to join.panvala.com and become a part of Panvala. I'm looking forward to seeing the collective action that you and I are going to participate in that drives value from middlemen to each and every one of our communities and makes community life the center of our society. Thanks, everybody.